Hi, my name is Tricia Broderick and I'm with Agile For All, coming to you from my home wearing Spartan gear because Michigan State is in the Final Four and it's important, so this will be my entire wardrobe for the rest of the week, hopefully all the way through Monday. Fingers crossed. So I'm here today coming to you to talk about a common question that we keep getting asked and wanted to give a little insight as to the history and the intention behind it. So one of the questions that we get frequently is why we have such a strong emphasis on facilitation in our Advanced-CSM. So let me give you a little bit of the history behind it. A number of us during one of our offsite meetings decided that we wanted to collaborate together to create a new course, a new offering, based on a lot of the challenges that we're having when we're coaching our clients and organizations on skills that we see lacking in leaders and specifically Scrum Masters, but really anyone, surrounding facilitation. So we came together, we started building this course, really with that drive towards enhancing, elevating, evolving facilitation skills. So not really role-based specifically, but just what does it mean to be a facilitator in that role, not title, but role, and what does it mean to do facilitation well, and how do you play out with that? So we started building this course, we were working on it, and then Scrum Alliance came out with the Advanced-CSM, and when we were looking at the learning objectives, really we didn't have to tweak a lot in order to align with those learning objectives. So we went ahead and submitted it to be certified as an Advanced Scrum Master course. But honestly, we've had a lot of people that have found benefit that are not Scrum Masters just because it is a strong emphasis on facilitation, which is kind of a cool part to it. We both get to serve enhancing and evolving Scrum Masters in their career and their skill sets, but also just general skill sets, period. Not role-based skill sets, but hey, if a product owner can benefit from facilitation skills, why are we declining that? And what does that mean? So we built that course. It does have other things aside from facilitation, but it is a heavy emphasis on facilitation. So let's talk a little bit about what that means so that you're kind of like, okay, well, I get the history now of where it is, but what would I gain from it? So why we think facilitation is so powerful and so important when it comes to leaders is a dynamic that comes into play of helping individuals and groups move to team. And really the big differentiator when it comes to group dynamics versus team dynamics is how much is the team cooperating? Kind of like, I'll help you with your part, but this is my part, that's your part. So a willingness to work together, but not really a creation together, not really working together, which limits what that wisdom of the crowd truly is when you're willing to help somebody, but it's theirs, you know, and that separation, cooperation, but still separation. Collaboration is where you're coming in and you're really starting to build together, where it's our part together, where you're feeding off of each other's ideas, which inevitably gets better results and better ideas. So one of the skills necessary for leaders to really help teams move from that group state to a team state, to high-performing team state, is adjusting from cooperation to collaboration. The hard part so often is that as leaders, whether you're a Scrum Master, product owner, functional manager, executive, doesn't matter. Leaders is we're so often the hub. We're so often the one making sure everything's happening. We're coordinating everything. We're doing everything. And as a result, we often keep that ownership with us. There might be some responsibility, shared feelings to want to do a good job, but at the end of the day, all that weight, all that responsibility, all the ownership resides with that leader when they're the hub. So facilitation, when it's truly the neutral role, when it's working to hear all the voices, when you're willing to stand in the storm, when you're willing to help a team become a team, help them collaborate, help them learn how to get to that result, that's where you start to really see that needle move. That needle from group over to team, where they're really starting to collaborate because they're learning how to do it for themselves, which means they start taking more and more ownership. which means you start getting better and better results and you can start scaling and all these kinds of things. And so we weren't seeing facilitation skills really understood. And one of those dynamics is because so often facilitation is creating an agenda. And that is important, don't get me wrong. You need an agenda, you need a purpose of what you're trying to accomplish. But having a meeting agenda and then basically slamming it out to everybody and saying, hey, here's your agenda. Is this effective? You know, and it may be efficient because you're like boom, 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 but we all know it's not always very effective because we often have to have that meeting over and over and over again, partially because maybe we didn't get to the result at the end of the meeting. Sometimes because everybody's like, yeah, I agree, and then they walk out of the room and they don't really agree. Sometimes because our results aren't very good because not all voices were heard. There wasn't the collaboration, that building off of each other. It was whoever was the loudest one won. So when we're teaching facilitation, we're really trying to teach the skills necessary to leverage the power and the value of being a neutral facilitator as a leader in an organization, and how that helps teams level up, which gets us the results that we need in organizations to deliver that value that we need to for our clients and for our customers. So let me give you a little flavor of some of the facilitation that we do and what we're going to be talking about in that course, or if we're coaching and training with you directly. So we do a lot of like little pro tips kind of dynamic, and one of them is to really start strong. As a facilitator, we tend to start the meeting, first of all, if we're lucky, if we start that meeting on time, because often we're waiting for somebody to show up, and then the people who are here on time are frustrated because they were here, but nobody else is here, and that's not very good. So we then kind of wait around. We give the 5-minute rule that quickly turns into the 10-minute rule, or we start, and then the person shows up that's late, and we repeat what we just talked about, which just infuriates everybody that was on time. It's not really a good start. You can have the agenda all day long, but it sets a tone right at the start of your meeting, right at the start of what you're trying to do to bring people together, that not everybody respects each other, that it's not going to be very effective, let alone efficient. It's just not a good way to start. So we counter a little bit with different kinds of techniques that you can use that some people would call icebreakers. I get really careful. If you've read my blog, you're aware that I have kind of some pet peeves when it comes to icebreakers. Don't make people just talk, they'll know that you're wasting time. Like sharing your favorite movie. Lovely, but it's not really going to contribute to what we have to do in this meeting. So A, I know you're wasting my time. B, it's not really going to get me to talk. C, it's like a forced relation. I don't enjoy it. So be creative. Be creative when you're facilitating a meeting. Design it with the sense that what could you have them do at the beginning of the meeting that will get them in the mind space for whatever the meeting purpose is? If they have to make a decision about something, what activity could they be doing right off the bat that helps them understand the value of making this decision, the benefits of making this decision, the need to make this decision? What could you be doing that helps them kind of immediately get not only in the mindset of what the purpose needs to be, but focused here? Because we all have 20,000 things going on at all times, and you need them focused. So how do you get them back into this room? How do you get them to that topic at hand? It can be as simple as having them list off what kinds of challenges they're currently facing as to it. And they have to brainstorm up a couple of things. They could highlight why they want to fix this, right? You could have them doing lots of different things, but focus it on the purpose that you have in the meeting. Get creative with how to do it. Now, if somebody's late coming in, you don't have to go back through all of that material because A, hopefully it's visual. Hopefully it's up there somewhere to where they can take a quick glance at it. But the reality is likely if they're such a key individual, they know those problems. They're part of the reason why you're having this meeting, that you shouldn't need to recap that for them. yet it was still valuable for everybody else that was in the room. Right? So you really want to start strong. They've already looked at that agenda. You hopefully sent it out in the meeting invite. That's not going to be enough to start strong. How are you going to make an impact right off the bat for the people and start it right on time with the people that are in the room, get them focused in that room? So that's tip number 1. Let's do 3, okay? Second tip that we should cover. I said it a little bit, but design. I'm gonna say it again. Design. It is not good facilitation to own a meeting, walk in the meeting, go, what meeting is this? And I get it, you're on a bunch of different projects, you have a bunch of different things going on, but if you don't actively design and prepare your meeting, then don't expect your team just to magically collaborate and get to the result because you put an agenda out. How are you going to make sure all voices are heard? How are you going to make sure that they can get to the end result, that they both were able to explore possibilities, narrow it back down, and come to a result that they need to do? One of the common questions I always get in every one of my courses and sessions and when I'm coaching with people is, well, Tricia, how do you facilitate the person who doesn't stop talking? Well, A, that's me. And I like to refer to those people as people who think out loud. Maybe yes, we like to talk, but some of it is that's how we think. It's how we engage. Sure, I interrupt, and I don't mean to. I'm referred to myself as the accidental interrupter because I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm just so excited about what you're saying that I jump in and the thoughts are going and I've had to learn techniques to help control that. I'm not excusing the behavior. It's just, maybe it's not always a bad behavior, but you know what, who was most effective in helping me? Were people who were designing their exercises, designing their meetings to accommodate for my way of thinking, for my way of handling things, as well as other ways. And so, one of the great techniques of doing it is don't just have constant open discussions. Constant open discussions means unless I have tools like I do today where I'll write down something I'm going to say and then I get to check it off if someone else says it first, and I almost make it like a game so that it doesn't fly out of my mouth. I have issues. I'm aware of it, okay? But the fact is facilitators who actually made a lot of silent writing exercises when we're brainstorming and trying to get ideas out. It allowed all voices to be heard. It allowed my voice to still be heard, but in a different way, which then allowed me to see what other people were coming up with, and I could participate in a different way. So often we come in, we have these agendas, and then we're just okay, let's talk about this decision, and it's an open discussion. Well, open discussions are dangerous for me in the sense that that's how I think, is by talking, so I can keep talking and be unaware of how long I'm going, the impact that it's having on the others, all these different dynamics. So you really need to design. If you're having conflicts, if you're having challenges in your meetings with individuals, think of what their positive is, that dynamic. I sound kind of optimistic in all cases, but the reality is they're engaged. In some ways, I'm more bothered by the person who's won't participate at all. But how do you engage to where all voices can be heard? What exercises can you be doing, whether it's posted silence, if you got remote teams, it's on Google Docs, different things to where you can kind of see. Now, that creates new problems, not to get too much information that it overwhelms. How do you limit that? And these are all things that you learn as you deepen your facilitation skill sets. So you really need to be designing. It's not enough to just go, well, we have to make this discussion. We'll have an open discussion. Someone will make the decision at the end. It works occasionally. And often, even when it works and a decision is made, it's not shared in terms of ownership of that decision. Responsibility to do it might be there because we're professional and we have to do it, but you won't get that shared ownership of we helped make this decision together. And that's really what you're trying to do as a facilitator. You're trying to create an environment. You're designing a session, a meeting, to where people can get that sense that they did this together, that they figured out their strategy, that they decided their goals, that they made the decision of releasing or not together, because that's what gets you that shared ownership, that's what gets you that collaboration, that's what will start taking teams towards that high performance state. So design, you know, whether you take facilitation, you look at books, there's a bunch of different exercises out there on different websites from the International Association of Facilitation, Tasty Cupcakes. There's a ton of different things out there. Sure, it takes more time, but it's more effective. And so design it. Think about what you're gonna do. It's not enough to just have an agenda. Design how you're gonna achieve that agenda, that meeting purpose and that goal. So that's 2. Let's do the third one, the neutral part. The neutral part for leaders. When you're a coach coming into an organization, it's really easy, well, a lot easier, let's say that, to be the neutral party coming in because I don't have any skin in the game. When I'm the leader trying to facilitate a meeting and I'm accountable for the results of that meeting, even though my team is doing it, I still am accountable as that overall leader. It can be really challenging. I make no bones about it. When I was an executive and trying to facilitate a meeting, there were many times I was claiming I was facilitating. I was not facilitating. I was not neutral. I was not trying to worry about the collaboration of everybody else. I was driving that meeting. And maybe sometimes that's the right choice to make. The reality is I made it a lot more than I needed to at the time because I didn't, A, respect the value of what facilitation does for the team. B, I didn't always have the skills that I have today for facilitation. And C, it was hard to let go. It was hard to step back. It was hard to trust. And one of the things that really helped me start to deal with that, aside from getting skills and growing in those areas, was starting to ask myself, what's the risk? If I don't want to be the hub, if I want my team to collaborate, if I want to get them to high performance, if I want to start using facilitation skills to help build collaboration, to help move them to team and eventually high performing team, I have to remove myself as the hub, which means it's gonna add risk because I do have experience, I do have knowledge, I do sometimes have quote unquote the answer. Sometimes it's wrong. So I have to start asking myself, one of the techniques that I do now is I'll ask myself, what's the risk? What's the risk? Now, the first time, almost always my first thing that comes to my mind is, well, I'm going to get fired. That's a fear dynamic. Go deeper. What's the risk? Well, they're going to make the wrong decision, okay? What's the risk if they make the wrong decision? Well, and then you start diving in. It's almost like the 5 whys, but with what's the risk? Just keep going, keep diving deeper. What I often will find is that my initial fears that were causing me to step in, that were causing me to override the decision, that was causing me to drive more, direct more, tell more, weren't justified. That the things that I thought were the edge, the cliff that they could fall off of, really that edge was much further out than I immediately, viscerally felt. And I needed to give them the space. I needed to let them learn in cases, to help, because sometimes I'm the one who needed to learn too, that my answer wasn't the right one, that I might have stepped in and caused more problems. Now, are there times that you're gonna ask that question, what's the risk? And it is significant enough that you should be stepping in? 100%. But it doesn't happen as frequently as you justify stepping in today. And every time you do, you take away that ownership, which takes away the value that you're getting at another level. And so asking what's the risk really helps me go to that neutral place. My objective as the leader in that particular meeting is to help them come up with the answer. Help them find a way to work together to determine what's best, to move forward. And when I'm in that mind space, it's a lot easier for me to go neutral. It's a lot easier for me to remember the value, but to stay there. Because they'll try and bring you in, especially if it's your MO. But to stay in that neutral place, to allow the conflict to happen, to allow the dynamics and the relationships to evolve, so that they learn how to do this together, which is only going to help you scale, help get the results that you're looking for, and ultimately, you're more satisfied, so are they. So what's the risk is a huge dynamic that I use now to really put myself in that neutral headspace. So that's three facilitation techniques. We go through rather large ones in the course to really small little things of just things you can do with your own energy and your own dynamic in the room to adjust things. It's a lot of fun. We have fun with it. It's a skill that everybody talks about, but we need to spend more time really diving into how do we hone those skills. We know they're important, but what are they? How do we hone them? How do we evolve them to really help others excel? And that's the coolest part of it all. So thank you for spending some time with me. Hope you enjoyed it, and enjoy your continuing learning and your Agile journey as you go forward. Have a great day.